All right, I am Tyler Buxell presenting a article on maternal and paternal controlling feeding practices with male and female children. My research question was, how do mothers and fathers control feeding practices differently for male and female children? And I think this is relevant because there are influences on the development of children based on their feeding practices that were given to them by their parents. I think that a child's relationship with food is solely based upon how their parents feed them as children and what's restricted, what's not restricted, and that will play a factor in if the kid has any disordered eating problems throughout their teenage years and then into early adulthood. Some of the gender specific effects, I think we know as a society that especially for teenagers nowadays, there's a very specific body image that is expected of you for both boys and girls. So I think that focusing on the parents' feeding habits to the children need to be based on the health of their children rather than any body image expectations by society. And then the parents' roles, I think when we think of who's feeding the children in the family, it's kind of expected of the mom to be the one feeding them. But I think it's important to also look at the family dynamic as a whole, as well as mother and father practices. The methods used here were just self-reported data, both gender-based differences with the parents and differences with the children. The parental feeding responsibility was out of mothers and fathers. Mothers do tend to be the ones who are more aware of the kids eating and are usually the ones that are supposed to feed them or expected to feed them. But neither mothers or fathers had any super significant use of restricted eating or pressure to eat with their kids. And then gender-specific patterns with mother to daughter, it was seen that moms with disordered eating symptoms would have a connection with restrictive feeding to their daughters. So that plays a part on their daughters eating. And then kind of the same thing for the father, where if the father has body image issues, that they may be a little more careful of what their son eats and just a little more restrictive or stuff like that. And then the child and gender feeding, there weren't any huge differences in the control of practices based on gender, but the son's body mass index or BMI was found to have connections based on whatever the mother's own practices are in some of the reports. And then my assessment of evidence was, I feel like if I were to do this study, I would have used observational evidence rather than self-reported evidence, because in self-reported evidence, I feel like there was an opportunity for bias or skewed information, because if a parent doesn't think what their practices are good, they can just report whatever they were feeling like they could report, and so that might skew the information. And then I feel like with observational, you would also just get a third-party person to observe the practices and analyze just all the factual stuff they're seeing. And like I said, there's no way it could be skewed information. And then I have my works cited, and that's all I have.